Hello everyone. The title that you find on the slide is actually not a clickbait. When I say that you can secure 25 marks in the next 25 days, I really mean it. So that doesn't mean that I have a secret document of 100 pages and you will be able to get 25 marks out of that document. No, that's not the object of this session. The object of this session is an answer to many of your queries as to what should be done in the next 1 month leading towards the exam, right? And the months and years of effort that you have already put in is going to get you the 25 marks, right? But what I'm going to tell you is going to simply guarantee you that definitely you get those 25 marks. So that's the objective of this entire session. All right. So what we'll be seeing in this session is what are the focus areas in every subject. This 25 days can be used to have a very targeted preparation. It's not going to be sporadic. It's not going to be once again taking your books and going through every page and taking some compilations and going through each and every page. That's not the objective of this session. But instead, the purpose of this session is to give you a very targeted preparation mechanism, wherein you only read select areas, you only read certain focus areas across different subjects, and those could be areas which you would have already read and already prepared sufficiently. But the next 25 days time, it's to ensure that you have the necessary precision, you have the necessary confidence, and you're absolutely clear about the areas from which possibly 25 more marks can be guaranteed. All right. So as you can see on the slide, these are all the different aspects that will be discussed in the session. What are the different focus areas of every subject that you can start looking at, right? And what should be your CSAT strategy? Because if you can only clear CSAT, you would be in the top probably 20% of those aspirants who are appearing in prelims, right? So I'll also give you a CSAT strategy as well, and how much of time to be allotted in the next 25 days, how do you ensure a proper routine. So these are some of the aspects that will be discussed. All right. So let me first start by discussing about the CSAT strategy first, because I feel that that's the most important aspect to be discussed. All right. So before I go any further in the CSAT strategy, for those who are watching this video for the first time, I would request you to watch the 2 videos on CSAT which I have already made, and I'll share the link in the description box as well as in the comment section. All right. So you can go and have a look at how to solve maths questions without any formula. That's one of the videos that I have already made, and the other video is about how do you tackle reading comprehension questions, right? So after you have watched those videos, now what should you be doing in the next 25 days? That's what I'm going to discuss here. So what you do is spend 1 hour every day on CSAT, alternate between reading comprehension and math related questions. So let's say on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, you decide that's going to be your days for reading comprehension. So Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday should be your days for solving maths questions, right? And once you have watched that video, you'll understand that I would be emphasizing on not going and solving topic by topic. Do not take clocks, do not take calendars and solve all different questions from those areas. That's not the approach for the next 25 days. Next 25 days is only full tests with respect to CSAT, right? You take your academy test series question paper, or any academy's test series question paper, or even last 12 years of CSAT paper since 2012. That was the year when CSAT was first introduced, I guess. So from 2012 till 2024, for 12 years, whatever full test question papers you can find, just get hold of all of them. That is going to be your worksheet for the next 25 days, right? So even if you can solve 10 to 12 full length CSAT question papers, that is going to be beneficial for you. And what am I insisting to solve? Please pay attention to that. Let's say on Monday you take reading comprehension questions, right? You have around 25 to 30 reading comprehension questions in any full length test question paper. So for 1 hour, simply focus only on solving all the reading comprehension questions on Mondays, right? And then evaluate, find out how much are you able to score, right? So that is going to be the practice, that is going to be the strategy when it comes to reading comprehension based questions. On Tuesdays, when you take maths questions, the only ability that you should be strengthening and honing up in the next 25 days is simply your ability to spot the easy questions. That's why I say you don't solve topic wise questions. In topic wise questions, you have all different variations of questions. Sometimes all the questions may be difficult, right? So but who knows, on the day of the exam, from that area an easy question may turn up. So that is why you take a full length question paper. If you have 35 40 questions on maths in any question paper, just make sure you get 15 to 20 questions, easy questions alone. Are you able to segregate them? Right? Once you segregate them, if you can figure out the logic, try solving it with time, right? Hardly, maybe maximum 2 minutes, 2.5 to 3 minutes. Just keep moving on. The ability to let go of a question that's simply not coming up with an answer and moving on to the next question is something that you'll have to start developing with confidence, right? So when you take reading comprehension questions, you should solve all the questions, right? Because that's a skill, as I have already pointed out in the reading comprehension video. You either have it or you don't have it. It works like that. So that's why you should make sure I hope you already have it, and the next 25 days is to reassure yourself that yes, you do have that skill. So that on the day of your exam, when you face reading comprehension question, the passage is slightly tricky, when you choose a particular question and you move on to the next question, your mind should not be full of that old baggage, whether the previous question is right or wrong. You should believe first that yes, whatever I have chosen is correct. It is with that confidence comes the strength to face maths questions with calm mind, right? So that's why wherever there's a reading comprehension question, make sure you attempt everything. Whenever you practice maths questions with full length test papers, make sure 15 easy questions are spotted, and even if it involves good amount of manual work, don't think of any formula, don't think which formula of permutation or combination should I apply. No, right? If at all you feel that there's a question where I have to use a formula, just leave that question and move on to the other. Question spotting is the most important aspect of math related practice. So this is what you are going to do for the next 25 days when it comes to CSAT, right? Strengthen, develop confidence that yes, you can crack CSAT. This is not the time to go and learn new areas. No, that should have been completed by now. Now is simply the time to reassure yourself you are fit for the final day. All right. So let's now move on to your approach towards polity and constitution. When it comes to polity and constitution, I would actually ask you to not even go and read your NCERT textbooks, because I feel NCERT textbooks based questions are all almost exhausted by UPSC, right? So most of the questions these years are only from Lakshmikant. Basically they are from constitutional articles. So that's why it's a very good idea to limit your preparation of polity in the next 25 days only to Lakshmikant. And if at all you have to read something beyond Lakshmikant, it's just 2 more sources. One is the rules of procedure of Lok Sabha, and that too I'll tell you how to read that. The other one would be Representation of People's Act, select parts alone, not completely. Just these 3 sources, nothing more. Do not add any new reading material or any new compilation of all different current affairs regarding polity. No, leave all of that. There is no guarantee that you'll be able to recollect the provisions, even if only they are going to be asked on the day of your exam. But the time that you spend in mastering the precision with respect to constitutional articles will definitely be more rewarding. That's why when you allot time which can actually turn out to be a favorable outcome on the day of your exam, right? So how do you prepare for polity and constitution for the upcoming 25 days? It should be a daily practice. Every day there should be some amount of time that should be given to polity, and how much amount of time I'll be discussing in the last part of this discussion, right? How much time you should be giving to different subjects, that will be addressed in the last part. So as of now, let me simply tell you the approach towards polity is you face any tests, could be your academy test question papers, right? But the point is you have to simply attempt 20 questions every day, and make sure that you don't simply attempt only the previous year's questions. Okay, so PYQ based preparation can be beneficial for environment and science, but I see not great benefit in simply preparing from PYQs when it comes to polity and constitution, right? Because it is hoped that you have already done your PYQ based preparation. Right now there is something else, something more to be done, and that more comes out of attempting tests. Once you attempt test, let's say there is something about the removal of speaker, right? There is a process that is actually given in the constitution, and if you're not able to remember that, now is the time to come and look at the constitution, right? So even if you're reading Lakshmikant, look at Lakshmikant, and when you have a look at the relevant portions of Lakshmikant, also try to read the entire chapter once. If not the entire chapter on Parliament, at least some 5 pages more. Don't only confine your preparation only to that one point regarding the removal of speaker, right? Now would be the time to also read something about deputy speaker, something about the different powers of presiding officers. All right, something more connected in and around that area has to be prepared. And do not only confine your preparation only to Lakshmikant, also have a look at the Bare Act, have a look at the original constitution itself. The reason why I say so is when you read Lakshmikant, you really do not get a sense of the range of articles, because the article number, the part number, that's all not what is given in Lakshmikant. Lakshmikant is just a narrative on the different constitutional provisions. You will not be able to really get a mental picture of where do these articles fit in which part do they actually come. But whereas when you take PM Bakshi's Bare Act, just a constitution given as a PDF document, even if you take that, if you have a hard copy of that, right, when you actually open and when you see center-state relations, right, it will be somewhere in the middle of the constitution, middle of the textbook. So you will be able to understand, okay, the center-state relations should probably be lying around 230, 240, that would be the range where the center-state provisions would possibly lie. Correct? And similarly, when you read elections, you know that it comes towards the end of the constitution. That way, you'll be able to understand that election articles would probably fall under 320s onwards, right? And the part numbers as well. So when you know that amendment is in part 20, you should be knowing it because last year that was a question asked. If you know amendment is in 360 and that comes under part 20, you'll be able to make a broad sense as to where other provisions may lie. For example, election, if it's in article 324, it should be somewhere before part 20. It could be in part 18, part 17, part 16. Actually, it lies in part 15, right? That broad sense of where the articles lie is also actually important, because these are the ways how UPSC can actually make the polity questions slightly tricky. The easy questions are all exhausted by UPSC. Okay, very detail based questions, fact based questions are now explored by UPSC even when it comes to polity. Gone are the days when just the provisions of money bill, how to pass a money bill is asked. Last year, 4 statements are given about money bill. 3 statements are easy statements about where can it be introduced, what are the powers of Rajya Sabha, all of that. One statement, Article 109 talks about the procedure for passing money bills. That was a slightly a tricky statement, right? So what I'm saying is, even in simple areas, now UPSC is trying to add a factual component to it. And what can be the actual factual component that can be added? It can only be with respect to the location of the articles. It can be only a test of which chapter, which part does it actually fall under, right? And it's easy to actually, when you keep on reading and referring the constitution again and again, when you read the Bare Act itself, you'll be able to get a sense of spatial positioning of these articles. And I believe that's a direction which UPSC is hinting in the last 2 prelims. So it's better to prepare polity with such a kind of a mindset. All right. So for clarification on the constitutional provisions, you can have a reading of Lakshmikant. That's the first step to do. That will definitely give you an idea about the provision of the constitution explained in a layman terms, explained in simple terms. But just don't stop there. Also go to the Bare Act and understand the positioning of all those articles. Find out what is the previous article, what is the next article, right? At least you should be able to understand the quorum of parliament will not be given in the initial parts of the articles relating to parliament. Parliament article starts from 79 to 123, right? The quorum comes somewhere around 100. You should at least know that it will not be there in 79, 80, 81. That should be a different topic of discussion. To that extent, if you can remember, you are actually going in the right direction. So the next 25 days is to develop a sense of where in the constitution lies what. Okay, and rules of procedure of Lok Sabha is another important area where UPSC explores questions, because that is how the question can be made slightly tricky, right? I'm not asking you to go and read the entire rules of procedure. Just face test questions, whatever test series you may be attempting. And there, if there is a question on, let's say there's a question on committee on subordinate legislation, committee on scheduled castes, right? Just now go to rules of procedure and learn everything about that committee alone, right? Even if you can get some idea about the quorum of different committees, you'll be able to understand a range. Maybe the committees may have a quorum of 1/10 of its total members. If a committee has 30 members, if there are 3 members, probably that can be considered as a quorum to start and initiate a meeting of the committee, right? So when you understand that, usually the committee quorums are around 1/10, and if on the day of the exam it's given the quorum to conduct a meeting of a particular committee is 50% of the members of the committee, you will be able to clearly link and think that 50% is too much, that need not be a quorum, and you will be able to eliminate that statement as incorrect, right? So it is only for that purpose I ask you to read rules of procedure of Lok Sabha. right? Do not go venture out beyond Lakshmikant, beyond the constitution when it comes to polity. I would even take the risk of neglecting the NCERTs, hoping that you would have already mastered NCERTs to sufficient degrees. And I feel whatever kind variations of questions can be asked, limited government, secularism, what is constitutionalism, what is liberty, all those kind of concept, philosophy, definition based questions are all already asked by UPSC, and all of that would have also been a part of your classroom discussions as well. So you would be able to have a sense of philosophies intact. So I think you're not going to make mistakes with that. Just make sure what you have spent time reading through Lakshmikant again and again finally becomes rewarding by ensuring that precision, that last mile cutting edge precision should be ensured as a result of this process. Take questions, come to Lakshmikant, get a clarity on that if you have made a mistake. Also look at the Bar Act, see where does it lie, what does the constitutional wordings talk about that particular question, what are the adjacent articles next to that particular article in question. This is all that you need to do. Alright, and from the last few years question paper, I can understand the factual areas of polity, it comes from language provisions of the constitution, it comes from the different committees of Constituent Assembly, the different membership relating to Constituent Assembly, the intricate aspects of Government of India Act 1935. That 1935 has been discussed as an earlier video. You can check my playlist for those two parts, right? So just focus on these 4 or 5 factual areas, all the different parts, what all articles, what all themes are discussed in those parts of the constitution. That's one area. Second area is provisions regarding different languages, which all amendments have added, which all languages to the constitution. That's the second area. Third area is regarding the composition of Constituent Assembly. Get to know who are all the members, who are all the chairmen of different committees. There was a committee on fundamental rights, there was a committee on dealing with the princely states, there was a committee on center state relations, then there was a drafting committee. You don't have to go to the extent of knowing all the different subcommittees within the committees, but at least the different main committees, who are all the different chairmen. To that extent alone, try to remember. That's a factual part alone. There is no conceptual discussions or anything. Find out your own ways of remembering those parts, right? That just these facts, hard facts to be memorized. All right, and also judicial activism is becoming one favorite theme for UPSC. Variations of question are asked, concepts like due process of law, the difference between procedure established by law, due process of law. A clear sense of that could have only been obtained by an aspirant if you have done proper mains preparation of Article 21 alone, the evolution of Article 21 across different case laws, and the idea of judicial activism in its entirety. If you have prepared, you will be in a better position to face conceptual questions which actually can be asked from the way Supreme Court has interpreted Article 21, right? So that is another important area that you can actually try to master. All right, so focus on only these select areas. Question paper based preparation. Take questions, those questions alone, find clarity from Lakshmikant, locate it in Bar Act, and only for those questions asked relating to rules of procedure of Lok Sabha, come to rules of procedure, just make a reading of that alone. If there is a question on a committee, make sure you also go through the other committees as well. It will only take you another 20 minutes, 25 minutes, but builds a sense of confidence. On the day of the exam, just because your eyes have fallen on particular committees, you would know that, okay, this was actually there in rules of procedure of Lok Sabha. So definitely there will be members of Lok Sabha, but will there be members of Rajya Sabha or not? That is also another area that you can keep on pointing out when you read the different committees, because some committees have members only limited to Lok Sabha, but then there are committees which will have membership even from Rajya Sabha as well, right? So get a sense of all those committees. All right, so this is all about the polity preparation that you should be doing in the next 25 days. Now let's move on to the next subject, which is history, right? When it comes to history, a very major concern among the aspirants is most of you would have done spectrum, multiple readings of spectrum, but sometimes the questions in modern India tend to be on the lower side. Like last 2 prelims, I think hardly very few questions are asked from modern India. So it feels like as if all the time you have spent reading and mastering that bulky book of spectrum would probably go waste, right? I'm not predicting anything. I'm not saying that even this year there will be very less questions asked from modern India. Who knows? Many questions can be asked from modern India, but what if the questions are slightly tricky, right? The problem with spectrum is everything is given in spectrum, but it's all in a disorganized manner. All ideas about Lord Curzon will not be given in a single chapter on Lord Curzon. That's how history optional books would have been written. So when a history optional student reads about Lord Curzon from their optional books, they get a much better clarity, much better sense of all contemporaneous policies, all everything that was happening when Lord Curzon was a viceroy in India. But when it comes to spectrum, something about Curzon will be given when in a chapter on local self-government. When they discuss about Lord Ripon's initiatives, in the last line it would have been given, Lord Curzon had reversed the policies of Lord Ripon. So it's very difficult for you to remember exactly all those scattered provisions of Lord Curzon and piece them all together on the day of your exam. So anyway, what is done is already done. So let me not give you any strategies on modern India. Instead, now your biggest fear about other parts of history, let me give you a formula to courageously tackle other parts. First, you make a choice, because in the next 25 days it's going to be very difficult to master both ancient and medieval India, right? So if I were to be given a choice, I would rather go and master ancient India more than medieval, because medieval has too many facts, too many dynasties, too many rulers, okay, and too many cultural accomplishments, many mosques, many temple building activities. So mastering all the facts of medieval India might prove to be challenging, but again it depends on aspirant to aspirant. Whereas ancient India, most of you would feel that you are very good with Harappan civilization, right? So when you start itself, and moreover the amount of facts in ancient India would be slightly, I wouldn't say they would be confusing like what you find in medieval India, because unless you know the different rulers of Malwa, you may not really be able to understand who had constructed Hoshang Mahal, right? So that could be a difficult area to master. But when it comes to ancient India, you wouldn't have those kind of facts. The facts can be limited only to Buddhism and Jainism. But I also have this feel that enough number of questions have been asked about Buddhism and Jainism in the previous years, all difficult facts, right? So that's why I feel ancient India can be approached with more confidence. And when I was going through the previous year's questions, I feel more predictable areas lie in ancient India compared to medieval India, right? And because it's mostly aspirants feel trouble in remembering, recollecting all the different rulers when it comes to medieval India, and medieval India is just simply full of rulers and their cultural accomplishments, their military accomplishments and all of that. But ancient India is slightly different, okay? So that's why I feel ancient India is better. If you have a contrary opinion, you can even try medieval India as well. So if you're planning to go with ancient India, just go for ancient India. Don't even read your spectrum anymore. Enough of spectrum, enough of modern India, right? Because I believe most of the time disproportionately would have already been invested in modern India. So have that confidence that whatever you need to tackle the questions in modern India, you have already had an exposure to that. But many aspirants would not even have started ancient India properly, right? So that's why we still have time, believe that. There are 27 chapters in R.S. Sharma textbook, right? The first 2 chapters are not so significant. Leave those 2 chapters. Start from the 3rd chapter onwards, right? So when you start from 3rd chapter, it leaves you with another 25 more chapters. Make a timetable that you will have to read 1 chapter per day, right? And the book is also very nicely organized. Every chapter goes in a chronological sequence, and every chapter is segregated into the social aspects, political aspects, religious developments of that particular period. So you will never go wrong in associating a particular religious development to a particular time period, right? So that is also another advantage with ancient India. So what do you do about ancient India is, let's say you read chapter number 22, you read about Harsha, right? So chapter number 22 talks about Harsha's kingdom, his administration, all his literary works that was produced, and the foreign traveler Huanzang who had visited India during the time of Harsha. All of that is given there. But when you read chapter number 22 on Harsha, also make sure you link that with the preceding and the succeeding chapters, because the preceding chapter has a lot of information about kingdom formations in Bengal. When you read that chapter, you will be able to understand that, okay, Shashanka was an adversary of Harsha, which means that Shashanka lived during the time of Harsha. They were contemporaries. Similarly, when you read the successive chapter, you will read about Chalukyas. There you will understand about the conflict between Chalukyas and Harsha. Pulakesin II had defeated Harsha in a battle. So you will be able to link and figure out what would be the time frame in which Shashanka would have probably lived, right? So if you can find some anchor point, let's say you are able to understand Pulakesin II had lived towards the end of this book, which means that it's an early medieval period, early medieval, around 6th century, 7th century common era. So if you can link to that, you'll be able to understand, okay, Harsha, Shashanka, Pulakesin, they would have all been contemporaneous, right? So that is the way how you actually learn chronology. You not only read a particular chapter, you also read the successive as well as the preceding chapters, right? So today you read 22nd chapter. Next, tomorrow when you read 23, also now revise 22, come to 23 after that. That is a very good way of feeling that sense of connect when you travel through history. Okay, so that is one way of how you can plan on completing all the different chapters in just one NCERT, that is R.S. Sharma. Alright, and if you and I'll also tell you, once you have done R.S. Sharma, let's say you have read 3-4 chapters, okay, now you go to the colorful NCERT, Themes in Indian History Part 1, right, and now you go through this particular time period, the early medieval period that is given in Themes in NCERT Part 1. When you read that chapter, you will be able to really read it fast. The reason is because you already have a background which you have developed by reading these 3 chapters. Now when you read that old new NCERT, Themes in Indian History Part 1, you will be able to finish the chapter very fast, and that will give you a sense of confidence, right? So keep reading it, keep revising it, and as you keep reading, don't look at PYQs. First read the chapter, now have a look at PYQs and try solving the PYQs. Make PYQs your ultimate test of where you stand after your studies. That will give you a confidence. That will give you a confidence that, oh my God, I was not able to get this PYQ right earlier, but now after reading this, I'm able to actually get this question right. That's how your confidence starts building. You cannot scatter your focus towards all parts of history in the next 25 days. Just exclusively narrow it down only to ancient India or medieval as you may choose, right? And also when you read and when you prepare for history, this is another important aspect that you will have to remember. Look at all the maps, boxes, source names and terminologies, right? Try to remember them. And whenever you come across maps like this, okay, this is a map from a particular chapter on Paleolithic cultures. So this is a map on Neolithic sites in India. All the different Neolithic sites are given in the map. I'm not asking you to go and read each and every one of these Neolithic sites. Very difficult, right? But at least those Neolithic sites where some description is given in the middle of this chapter. I'm not asking you to go and remember Payampalli. Okay, I'm not asking you to go and remember Sanganakallu. That is not what my focus is. My focus is you should at least remember Burzahom. You should at least remember Birbanpur. Why? Because Mesolithic tools have been found in Birbanpur, right? And this is something that UPSC is very fond of asking. Wherever you have some places, wherever you have some names associated with imageries, UPSC would go for that. UPSC also understands, or you may ask me, sir, no, that's not the case. Last year there was a question asked about 4 places. One of the places was Mangadu and its description was given as Paleolithic site, megalithic site. So where am I to go and study that? You don't actually have to know Mangadu to get that answer right. If you would have known Chandra Ketugat, you would have got that answer right. And Chandra Ketugat could have got from your Themes in Indian History Part 1 NCERT. In one of the map, Chandra Ketugat is marked, right? I understand. No matter what you read from these maps, remembering and recollecting it on the day of your exam might be difficult. That's why I say have a narrow focus only for ancient India. When you have to read so many different areas, it all becomes difficult. Okay, just let's hope instead of doing nothing or instead of scattering and efforts and finally achieving nothing, at least let's have a selected focus only on all the places that accompanies all these images. Tomorrow question can be given, Burzahom, pit dwelling was found there. Okay, match the following. Okay, so there you will be able to get this answer right, because here there is an image of a pit where people lived in Burzahom, right? So Burzahom pit dwelling is there. Neolithic bone tools from Burzahom. So Burzahom can be asked in a different match the following. Burzahom, a site of bone tool excavation, right? You will be able to get that answer right. If a question is asked about Chirand, it's okay, let's leave that. You may not be able to secure marks. That's still fine, right? Something which is much more meaningful than a very a very unfocused preparation is always any day better, right? So this is the approach towards history. Make up your mind that you're only going to focus on a narrow part of history. It could be only ancient India, right? And in ancient India, make sure you make a timetable. 1 hour is sufficient to finish every single chapter. You don't need more than 1 hour. Okay, and the next day when you are once again going to read this chapter, a better retention you are ensuring, a better connect to the accompanying succeeding chapter you are ensuring, right? I am very sure that will do wonders on the day of your examination. Okay, and make sure you look at all the maps and boxes, source names and terms, especially when it comes to new NCERTs. It is more pictographic, it's more colorful, the maps are very clear, and the description about the places in the map site. See, in old NCERT you have a lot of places, but not descriptions of all these places are actually given in this entire chapter. But whereas in new NCERT, I feel only meaningful places are given in those maps. Okay, whichever is actually discussed as a part of the narrative of the chapter, only those places will be given in the maps, right? So it becomes much more easier to go and read the new NCERTs, the themes in Indian history part 1. But my expectation is, even if you do not have the time to complete both the NCERTs, at least make sure R.S. Sharma is completed, right? So this would be a better way of how your time can be utilized in mastering ancient India, and it is very, very possible. Have that confidence that it is actually possible to start ancient India now, and within 25 days at least cover the small R.S. Sharma textbook. All right. Now coming to geography. So when it comes to geography, I only wanted to prepare for 3 areas. One is climatology. This is non-negotiable. Every year 2 to 3 questions are asked. 1 or 2 questions are asked directly from C Leong. Okay, so if you wouldn't trust me, you can watch my video which I have made on identifying climatic types. Okay, that's a video that I have made as a part of this revision series. If you watch that, you'll be able to understand, yes, it is very, very possible to get a precise identification of climatic types, but it comes with revision. It comes with a lot of revision again and again and again. Okay, and when you read the chapter on C Leong, make sure you observe all these rainfall distribution graphs that are given there, because UPSC can ask you, Bogota receives winter maximum rainfall. You know, you should be able to know where is Bogota in the first place. Okay, Bogota is in Colombia. Colombia lies on the equatorial zone, so that cannot be a winter maximum, right? Or a question can be asked, the place receives rainfall not throughout the year. There are only a few months where it receives when it receives rainfall. The annual range of temperature is very low, whereas the daily range of temperature is very huge, right? And during the winters, the rainfall is absent. Okay, identify the climatic type, or identify which part locations can be given. Okay, it would be Sudan. Whatever I have explained to you now is a characteristic of Sudan type of climate. So whenever you look at this kind of images, when you look at these graphs, you will actually be able to identify, you'll be able to better link whatever is given in the chapter. You'll be able to identify and link with a particular place. Okay, so that is another meaningful way of how you can prepare climatology. Go through C Leong, try to understand the specifics of each and every climatic type. It's very easy. It's a very easy part of geography, very scoring part of geography. Okay, so this is the graph of Bombay. Okay, so you see Bombay receives a peak rainfall in the summer around May and June. That's when the peak rainfall hits. Okay, so having a sense of these graphs will be, you will be able to better remember the characteristic of that climatic type. Okay, so that is a way of how you can master climatology. Maybe you can even spend one day reading the entire climatology. It will take hardly 1 hour, and if you have already done it, hardly half an hour to master a climatic type, right? And the next day as well, remember the previous topic and now go to the next topic. That way a continuous sense of memory will always be there. Okay, so one area to focus would be climatology, right? 2 to 3 questions, easily you can get all the questions right. Next area is just these 5 themes. Understand all the mechanisms, mechanics, science behind heating of the earth, right? In which seasons do which part of the earth receives the maximum heating, and what is the amount of sunlight received. Okay, what is the temperature range that is experienced by that place during summers and winters. Okay, and everything regarding these 5 themes should be known to you. Okay, so this you can learn either by watching select videos. Just watch rainfalls and cyclones UPSC, just type it on YouTube, and whatever video comes, even if you're not aware of the topic at all, that would also be a good start, right? You can watch your class lectures, or if you don't have access to class lectures, you have enough videos on YouTube. Just watch those videos, only read those 5 parts from your physical geography NCERT. nothing more. Alright, and then when it comes to economic geography, focus on the different ports in India, the mines and minerals available in different parts of India. This much is sufficient to guarantee you that 1 or 2 more questions from geography that you are supposed to get right, but if you are not able to remember on the day of the exam, it goes wasted, right? So the entire objective of this entire discussion is to ensure that 1 or 2 questions per subject, which easily you could have got right, you should not feel, because a lot of aspirants have also written in the doubt query form, you have mentioned that when I wrote my prelims last year, I made a mistake, but today I feel that this was such an easy question and I should have got it right. The only reason is because the last minute revisions was not targeted. It was once again wholesome, right? So that's why we go for a targeted focus only on these areas. Maybe you can take a screenshot of this part, but make sure you read only these particular areas from geography. All right. So now coming to economy. It's actually easy to prepare economy if you are not scared of current affairs, right? People who are scared of current affairs, people who understand that the current affairs in economy is actually slightly tricky, your approach towards overcoming your fear would be to simply go and read a compilation, a PT 365 or a round the year compilation on economy, right? You are going to waste your time. Every unnecessary thing will be given in the compilation, all small concepts and all will be given again. So after 2-3 hours of reading, do you get really something substantial that you never knew before? No, that is not the case. You will only be once again getting to know what you already have known, right? That is why I feel from the nature of questions asked in economy, the best way to prepare is make sure your basic concepts in economy are all right. Say you read a chapter on banking, you get to understand about all the different Basel frameworks, you get to understand about repo, reverse repo, cash reserve ratio, SLR, all those concepts are clear. You know what is the RBI's criteria to classify an asset as a non-performing asset, right? All those basics which everybody else knows, you also should be knowing that. Basic terms, it could be learned from any textbook. Don't read any compilations for that. Okay, just simply read Vivek Singh or Ramesh Singh or Shankar Ganesh, whichever is your favorite economy book or whichever you have been reading as your standard economy textbook. Just read that chapter by chapter, 1 chapter a day, sufficient enough. In addition to that, you have to do certain activities from economic survey. This can be a really good exercise in strengthening your memory in the next 25 days. What is that I'm asking you to do? All you need to do is look at the index page of economic survey. This is a screenshot that I have taken. So let me just zoom it. In the index page, you have 2 activities to perform. One is, when you go to index page, you will have all these prime minister's schemes, right? You see here, PM Shri, PM Poshan, PM Janman, okay, PM Kisan, right? Whatever schemes have this name PM followed by a particular scheme name, right? Make sure you only master these schemes. So definitely one question will be asked from all these schemes put together, minimum 1 question, right? This is a compulsory activity that you should be doing. Do not go and read all random schemes. Let's not waste time. Okay, just focus on only on these schemes given in economic survey. You can even ask Grok or ChatGPT to give you all the provisions, and I'm sure something out of that will be captured as an option in the question when you face your examination, right? And whenever you're free, just randomly open economic survey, or maybe you can make a timetable. You have 25 more days, there are 26 alphabets, right? So take the economic survey, make one day, you should finish all the different abbreviations under A, right? So starting from tomorrow you can start with A, the day after tomorrow you can start with B. Make sure you go through Ayushman Arogya Mandirs, what are they, okay, and national database of unorganized workers. Just a 10-minute search on this is sufficient to build you a sense of confidence that this is not totally out of the blue when you face it on the day of your exam. This is this examination is a game of confidence. Those who are able to feel calm, feel cool, feel things are manageable will finally win prelims. And it is towards that I am actually hand-holding you as a part of this discussion, right? Even if you and when you go through the list of abbreviations given, you will find that you don't have to read everything here, okay? Whatever, for example, annual survey of industries, right? I don't think there can be any question based on that. or maybe if at all, or just search in the same document, enter Control F and search annual survey of industries. Wherever it figures, if at all some description is given about that, if at all there is a box in which something is given about annual survey of industries in the economic survey, only read that much part. You don't even have to Google it, because enough of details is already given in economic survey. This exercise will take you another half an hour or 40 minutes every day. This is something you can simply do as a part of your hobby, right? Just randomly open the index and just randomly see, do I know something about let's say Basil Calmet Guerin. It's actually BCG, right? It's a BCG vaccine. Okay, now is the time to know something about what is this vaccine, what does it prevent. Okay, so this would be a good way to widen your search, but not too wide, keeping it confined to something that matters to the government. Okay, so this would be a very interesting way to read economy. Okay, this was the way how I was able to make use of economic survey when it comes to prelims, because there is just so much of trend, so much of data, so much of charts given everywhere in the economic survey. Either you should have spent a week for every chapter, would have mastered all the chapters by now. If not, it's still not a matter of grave concern. You still can manage to get some benefits out of economic survey, and this is the way to do it. So for economy, do not spend your time reading a 150-page handout given by any market source. I don't see any rewards of doing that. Instead, strengthen your basic ideas of what is GDP, what is balance of payments, external sector, okay, and with respect to industries, all the any basic book will cater to that purpose. So whatever you have been following till now, just read that. You don't even have to go read any of the NCERTs for economy. Do not read any NCERTs. The payoff is very, very marginal. Instead, read your basic textbooks, make use of economic survey in mastering what you find in the index in two different aspects. One is all the schemes that starts with PM. Other one is have a target every day, one alphabet should be completed, and with that goal in your mind, try to finish off the different components of economic survey. Okay, so we'll move on to the next area, which is science and environment. So when it comes to science and environment, just forget about books. Do not take a single textbook for the next 25 days. Okay, so let us assume that you already know the definitions, you already know what is bacteria, virus, and all of that. So, and there are just so much of compilations available when it comes to both science and environment, and the data available in the compilations is also too voluminous. So then how would you only segregate the most important, most relevant aspects of the compilations for the purpose of this exam? That is what your test series will do, right? So whoever sets test questions, they would have gone through all those compilations. They would have been keeping a track of all important current affairs, and it is from those areas the questions are even handpicked and they are framed, right? So the wisest thing to do when it comes to science and environment is to simply forget about statics, simply forget about the books for the time being. This is not to say that the books and material is totally irrelevant. The time for you to have mastered that is over. So whatever you have mastered, let it be there. From now onwards, from here onwards, only focus on test questions. It's very important that you attempt at least 20 questions a day from science and environment. Even if it's combined together, 20 questions a day will also suffice, because there is more to learn after you attempt this 20 questions. Because definitely out of 20 questions, at least 10 to 12 questions you will have something new which you may not have been aware of earlier, right? So those are all opportunities for you to go and browse something more about that. So until now I have not asked you to browse on anything. Until now I have asked you to simply confine yourself to very limited areas of textbook. But when it comes to science and environment alone, a good browsing habit should be sustained in the next 25 days, because when you browse that, the search takes you to further more searches, it takes you to further more hyperlinks, you click on one hyperlink after the other. So very comprehensive coverage of all the science connected to everything will be covered, right? So that is the reason why I ask you to limit your attempt of questions to only 20. Okay, so don't seek answers for the 20 questions only from the answer key. The answer key is just a very limited part, right, of the theme. You need more ideas, you need more interconnections. That is why for science and environment, attempt questions so that you get to understand what are the most probable areas, what are the most relevant areas. From there, start your search from internet. And after having covered that, also make sure PYQs are thoroughly covered for science and tech, because in science and tech and environment, both the areas, I find in 1 year there could be something asked about, let's say, about Indian flying fox, right? But something of the options given that may repeat in this year as one of the statement in the question, or just from that one option an entire question can be framed. Just for science and tech and environment, make sure PYQ areas are addressed. Alright, so this is your approach to proceed further with science and environment. And lastly, it's about maps. Okay, so I have already made a video on places in news. Okay, so try to watch that video. You get a sense of all important world map related sites that have been in news in the last 1 year. And I believe covering world map is much more easier than mastering Indian map, because the questions asked from world map areas are very broad and superficial, some things that you would not have missed attention when you would have read newspapers, right? Only the superficial areas are asked as questions, but whereas when it comes to Indian map, slightly difficult questions are actually asked, right? But given time, even Indian map areas can also be covered, right? And it is towards that my next video is going to be structured, right? So next video I will be giving you an idea about how just from this one theme of covering Western Ghats, you will definitely be able to get 1 or 2 questions right every year in prelims, right? At least getting an option correct in a composite question will be possible if you can prepare well on Western Ghats. So the next video will be a template that I will be giving. How do you cover a map area of a particular part of India? And once you watch that video, you will be able to apply that same template, apply that same framework to cover other parts, maybe Eastern Ghats, then Himalayas, then Northeast India, Central India. When you start applying that framework, I'm sure you will be able to get sufficient ideas about other areas as well, whether you cover other areas or not. But when it comes to India, Indian map based questions, I'm very sure a good coverage of Western Ghats will help you at least tackle 1 or 2 questions, which I will be making as a next video. Probably by tomorrow I will be done with that video, right? World map, very rewarding area. Definitely 3 to 4 questions every year, 100% can be got right, easily it can be got right. And it would be advantageous for you to go and watch the other video that I have made on places in news in the last 1 year, places in the world, not regarding India. Alright, so when it comes to map places, I would say the best course of action would not be to read any compilations for that. Simply you just take any YouTube videos on places in news and you watch it. Maybe when you watch half an hour video every 2-3 days once, that will give you a very comprehensive coverage of all the places in news. It's an easy area to actually master, right? India map based questions are slightly on the difficult side because the questions asked can be of 3 or 4 different places will be given and their geographical significance would be given. Getting it right may slightly prove to be tricky. So that is why we would try our best when it comes to India map, but what we are going to bank upon is places in world. Alright, so this is with respect to maps. Now coming to the last part, which is about now is the time when you start attempting a full length tests, a full open mock tests, right? So when you attempt your full mock tests, and since most of you would be attempting it offline just to simulate the real experience, these are some things that you have to keep in your mind, right? First is, I'll just tell you some common mistakes which aspirants do during the exam when they handle the question paper, right? As soon as they get the question paper, they start, in the name of going through the questions, they slowly start losing the confidence as soon as they start going through the questions itself. Never judge the difficulty of a question paper when you take the question paper in your hand. The first 5 minutes or 10 minutes is not the time to judge whether it's a difficult paper or it's easy paper. If it is difficult for you, it's difficult for others. If it's easy for you, it's easy for others. So it makes zero sense to come at a judgment whether it is difficult or easy. That's not the objective of why you go through the question paper. But instead, you have to go through the question paper to see the arrangement of questions, right? You need to know whether the questions are all mixed or whether the questions are sequentially arranged. First 15 history, next 15 geography. Is that the way how questions are arranged? So that mentally you can make up your mind that when you face geography questions, and you may not be so good with geography, when you're not able to get many questions right, when you have not attempted many of the questions, you should still not feel that the confidence is lost. You know that history is just there to come, and history could be your strong area, right? To keep your confidence intact, you need to get a sense of what is the design of the question paper, all right, so that you know where you can actually afford to spend time. Because if geography is your weak area, you should not be spending unnecessary amount of time in thinking of geography questions, because that's a basic human mindset. When you see the initial set of questions, you would really want to actually attempt them, because your mind would, your emotions would not allow you to skip those initial set of questions. So you start spending disproportionate amount of time in areas which are actually your weak areas, right? So just to assure yourself that the strong areas are there towards the end of the question paper, that's the reason why you go through, skim the contents of the question paper, all right. Nothing else, no other judgment should be made out of the nature of questions, right? Another mistake that aspirants do is when it comes to shading, right? Some aspirants, what do is they first mark all the right answers in the question paper itself. Once they have done everything on the question paper, then they take the OMR sheet, then they start shading one after the other. So there's a risk when you do that. Even if you jump one line, right, instead of 9th question you shade it for 10th, what happens is you will not even realize that everything after that will also be incorrect. So that is why I feel it's much more safer, as soon as you get a question right, immediately shade it on your OMR sheet. Okay, these are all some mistakes which aspirants have done even on the day of their examination. Okay, it might even work when you attempt your mock tests, but be doubly sure on the day of your exam. If it's question number 3, let's say you follow a strategy where you first choose all the right answers in the question paper, then you shade the OMR. Even then, every time read the question number 9A, now come to 9A, now go to 10th question, you would have skipped attempting it, now go to the 11th question, right? So now assure that it's 11C, now go to the OMR, skip the 10th question, correctly identify 11th question and shade there properly, right? So this is another mistake that aspirants do. And when it comes to CSAT, make sure you remain cool and calm. Let whatever be the difficulty of question paper, practice that emotional calmness. Okay, more than GS, it matters in CSAT, because at least in GS you wouldn't be running so much of time out of time, but in CSAT it is very normal, very possible that most of you would be running short of time, and it is only then when panic hits, right? So that is why start taming your emotions when you attempt your full tests, all right? So apart from that, when it comes to how much of time should you be allotting based on this plan, right? I assume that you have to spend 10 hours every day, and in that 10 hours I have also included a newspaper preparation of half an hour to 1 hour. Do not give up on your newspaper reading. Yes, very prominent science, new discoveries, or something that's a species that has newly come in news in the next 1 month may not figure in your prelims, but reading newspapers constantly ensures a touch with reading comprehension, right? Every day when you keep on connecting yourself to the passages, you would feel that your reading comprehension skills are on par with the demand of UPSC's passage questions. So it's like your everyday reading comprehension passages, right? So to keep that practice intact, spend time, half an hour, even if it's half an hour, just spend time reading newspaper, right? The time that you're spending is not waste, it will anyway be useful for your mains also. Okay, and half an hour to 1 hour spending on newspaper is not something that is going to drastically affect your other parts of your preparation, right? And for CSAT, the practice that I have told you, where 1 hour you spend either for reading comprehension or for math based questions, just 1 hour every day for CSAT. And for all the static subjects, be it reading polity, be it reading economic survey the way I have told you, or reading one chapter of C Leong, right? All the subjects, history, geography, polity, economy, combined together you can spend up to 5 hours a day, right? And it is compulsory you spend 1 hour on map practice, right? Either watching videos on places in news or doing your own efforts, marking rivers, marking different lakes, marking different irrigation schemes, hydropower projects. Okay, so whatever it is, map practice should be done for 1 hour, because 5 to 8 questions will definitely be asked linked to map. 3 questions from world news, 3 questions from India map based places, right? And for science and environment, you have to take questions of 20 questions at least, right? So I would say that a daily test taking time can be up to 1 hour, right? It could be a few questions from polity, a few questions from science and tech and environment, right? So those, and testing your history preparation out of PYQs, all of that combined together will occupy 1 hour of your time. All right. So, and then browsing on science and environment for another 1 more hour. If you can just replicate this, make this as a routine for the next 25 days, I'm very sure after 25 days when you face your prelims, whether you clear it or not, at least you will be free of any regrets. You would have learned a lot in the next 25 days as to how to target and prepare. So once you do this preparation, you will start actually understanding that clearing prelims is actually not so difficult. Even if you do not clear this attempt, you will be able to replicate it in the upcoming months. You will be able to crack the next prelims, right? So that is why I would want you to think about following this strategy. If you are actually clueless about what to do in the next 25 days, if you think that once again you will start Lakshmikant reading from union and states, union and territory, next citizenship, next fundamental rights, if that is your plan, no, you're going in the wrong direction. That is for sure. But if you already have a plan similar to this, or you have your own strategic areas to prepare for, then well and good. But if you're clueless, if you feel that your marks have not improved at all, right, it is because you lack this targeted, precision driven preparation, and I'm very sure this can fill in a lot of gaps, make you more confident before the day of your examination. All right. So as I said, you can wait for the next video in which I will be discussing about how to prepare Indian maps, and as a result of preparing for Western Ghats related areas, you will definitely be assured of 1 or 2 questions every year, right? If you do this, definitely your number of questions that turn out correct in each and every subject will be 1 or 2 more questions will turn out to be correct. All right. So thank you, and we'll meet in the next video.